Jenny sits alone in her small apartment, the dim light from a single lamp casting long shadows across the walls. Her hands tremble as she clutches her phone, scrolling again and again through messages and missed calls. Each notification feels like a weight pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Her eyes are red and puffy from crying, and she can hardly remember the last night she slept peacefully. She whispers to herself, almost inaudibly, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this, something has to change. Memories of yesterday flood back. The anger in Sumit's eyes, the shouting, the way he had thrown things across the room when she hesitated to answer him properly. She shivers at the thought, her body remembering the fear as if it just happened. I can't keep living like this, she whispers, clutching the edge of the couch as if it could keep her grounded. She remembers clearly how he had stormed into the room, his face twisted with rage. Where were you? Who were you talking to? His voice had been sharp, cutting through the room like glass. She had tried to speak, to defend herself, but fear had choked her words. I was just, she had whispered, her hands shaking violently. Then he grabbed her arm with a force that made her wince. Don't lie to me, he had shouted. You think you can hide things from me? Panic had coursed through her body. She twisted free, heart pounding, and for the first time in months, she picked up her phone. Her fingers trembled as she dialed the police, hoping someone would answer, hoping someone would believe her. Now, sitting in the quiet aftermath, Jenny feels a strange mix of fear and relief. She knows that calling the police was dangerous, but necessary. She remembers every time she had stayed silent, every time she had convinced herself it wasn't that bad, every time she had endured humiliation, fear, and pain in silence. But now that silence is broken. She whispers to herself again, firmer this time, I won't stay silent anymore. This is my life, and I'm taking it back. She dials the police, her voice shaking as she explains everything. He's hurting me. I can't do this anymore. Please, you have to stop him before it's too late. On the other end, an officer listens patiently, takes down every detail, and assures her that help will come immediately. Jenny feels a tiny spark of hope. Maybe she isn't completely alone. After reporting the abuse, Jenny sits in silence, letting the weight of everything sink in. Her thoughts are a whirlwind. Fear, anger, sadness, and a newfound determination. She thinks about the nights she stayed quiet, the bruises she hid, the tears she swallowed, and realizes that all of it has led her to this moment. She doesn't want to be defined by fear any longer. Her phone rings again. This time it's her best friend and her sister, rushing over after hearing the news. When they arrive, they wrap her in comfort and warmth, their presence a shield against the lingering shadows of fear. You did the right thing, her best friend says, her voice steady. You are not alone, Jenny. We're here for you. Her sister hugs her tightly, whispering, no one deserves to be treated this way. You are brave. Jenny closes her eyes, letting the support wash over her. She reflects on her past, on every harsh word, every controlling action, every moment she thought she couldn't survive, and realizes something important. She can survive and she can thrive. A quiet strength begins to rise within her, a courage she hadn't noticed before. She is not powerless. Outside, the world continues, unaware of the battles fought within these walls. But Jenny knows that things are changing. Reporting Sumit is just the beginning. She knows there will be challenges, confrontations, and perhaps more fear, but she is ready to face it. For the first time in a long while, she feels the stirrings of freedom. As Jenny sits in her dimly lit apartment, reflecting on her journey, she feels a mix of fear, anticipation, and determination. She understands that her story is bigger than herself, that her voice matters, that her actions can inspire change. She thinks about the countless others trapped in silence, and she realizes that by breaking her own, she is giving hope to them as well. Jenny takes a deep, steadying breath. I am not a victim, she whispers, her voice gaining strength. I am a survivor, and this is the start of a new life. The camera lingers on her face, capturing the mix of relief, fear, and determination. The quiet apartment feels different now, lighter somehow, filled with the possibility of change. Jenny knows the road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time, she feels in control of her life. She feels free. Jenny sits in her apartment the morning after she filed the police report. The sunlight filters weakly through the blinds, but it does little to warm the heaviness in the room. Her hands shake as she pours herself a cup of coffee, her mind racing through the events of the past few days. Every detail of Sumit's anger, every harsh word, every threat comes rushing back, making her chest tighten. She takes a deep breath and reminds herself she did the right thing. She finally spoke up. She finally took control of her life. Hours later, the police arrive at Sumit's apartment. Jenny stands silently, watching from a distance as officers knock on his door, announcing their presence. The air is thick with tension. She watches as Sumit opens the door, confusion quickly replaced by rage when he realizes what's happening. Officers step forward firmly but professionally, explaining the charges and the necessity of taking him into custody. Jenny's heart pounds, a mixture of fear and relief flooding through her. She wants to run, to scream, to cry all at once. But mostly, she feels an unfamiliar sense of liberation. Sumit is escorted out of his apartment, resisting briefly, but eventually complying as the officers guide him to the squad car. Jenny watches every step, her body rigid with emotion she can barely name. Part of her wants to look away. Part of her wants to make him understand the pain he caused. But she knows this isn't about revenge. It's about survival, about reclaiming the life that was nearly stolen from her. Returning to her apartment, Jenny sits on the couch, hands clasped tightly together. She can feel the adrenaline slowly ebbing, replaced by a hollow exhaustion. The silence of the room is almost deafening. Memories of the past, years of subtle manipulation, controlling behavior, insults disguised as advice, moments when she felt powerless, flood her mind. And yet, in that same moment, a new resolve begins to take root. She is no longer invisible, no longer silent. She is taking her life back, one careful, deliberate step at a time. Her friends and family surround her over the next few days, helping her navigate the practical and emotional challenges of her new reality. They sit with her as she writes statements for the court, accompanying her to meetings with counselors and support groups. They remind her constantly, she is not alone. Each visit, each comforting word, strengthens her resolve. Slowly, Jenny begins to rebuild herself, stitching together the pieces of her confidence that Sumit tried so hard to tear apart. Jenny begins attending therapy, where she is encouraged to express not only the trauma she endured, but also the courage she discovered within herself. You survived, her therapist tells her gently, and surviving is just the first step. Now it's time to reclaim joy, time to rediscover who you are without the chains of fear. Jenny nods, feeling tears sting her eyes, but this time they are tears of growth, of hope, of a quiet victory that no one else can take away. Days turn into weeks. Jenny watches from her window as life continues outside, people laughing, children playing, cars rushing past, but she knows she has been changed forever. She no longer fears the shadows that once loomed over her. She has confronted them, faced them head-on, and found that she is stronger than she ever imagined. One evening, as she sits with her journal, she writes, "Today I spoke in court. Today I realized I have a voice, and that voice matters. I am not defined by the fear I endured. I am defined by the strength it took to survive. I am free." Her hand pauses for a moment, hovering over the paper, before she continues writing, documenting her journey, her pain, her resilience. She knows the road ahead will still be difficult. There will be court dates, perhaps confrontation, and moments of doubt, but she also knows that she is ready. The camera lingers on Jenny's face, capturing the quiet determination that has replaced the fear she once felt. Her eyes are no longer clouded with terror, but shine with a clarity born of survival and self-empowerment. The apartment, once heavy with tension and dread, now feels like a sanctuary, a place where she can heal, reflect, and plan the life she wants to live. Jenny understands that her story extends beyond herself. It is a story for anyone who has ever been silenced, anyone who has felt powerless in the face of fear. And in that realization, she finds a sense of purpose. By speaking out, by standing firm, by refusing to allow fear to dictate her life, she is giving hope. Not just to herself, but to countless others who may one day follow in her footsteps. As night falls, Jenny sits by the window, looking at the city lights shimmering in the distance. She takes a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs, feeling the freedom that comes from facing the darkness and refusing to be consumed by it. I am stronger than I ever knew, she whispers to herself. And this is only the beginning. The camera slowly pulls back, capturing the quiet strength in Jenny's posture, the resolve in her gaze, and the first true signs of peace in her expression. Though the journey is far from over, Jenny knows, deep in her heart, that she has crossed a threshold, from fear to empowerment, from silence to voice, from being trapped to being free. Jenny wakes up to the soft morning light, filtering through her blinds. The apartment feels different now, quieter, safer, almost sacred. Each corner no longer whispers fear, but reminds her of the space she is reclaiming. She sits at the edge of her bed, her journal open on her lap, pen in hand. The ink flows as freely as her thoughts, capturing every emotion she has experienced: fear, pain, anger, hope, and finally, courage. Her phone buzzes. It's her therapist, confirming the session for later in the morning. Jenny smiles faintly and answers, her voice steady. Yes, I'll be there. Thank you. She feels a small but undeniable sense of accomplishment in being organized, proactive, and in control of her life, things she hadn't felt in months. Over the next few days, Jenny begins a routine that blends healing and rebuilding. She attends therapy sessions regularly, opening up about every moment of her past that she had once hidden. She learns to recognize patterns of abuse, the psychological trap she had fallen into, and how to set boundaries. With each session, her confidence grows and a deep, steady courage takes root. She realizes she is capable of defining her own life, rather than being defined by someone else's cruelty. Jenny reconnects with friends and family who had once been distant, afraid of Sumit's influence. They gather around her in supportive circles, helping with errands, offering encouragement, and celebrating small victories. The first peaceful night of sleep, the first day she walked outside without anxiety, the first time she laughed without fear. These moments, though small, stitch together a new life, one that is hers, not controlled by anyone else. She also starts volunteering at a local support center for survivors of domestic abuse. Initially hesitant, Jenny finds herself sharing her story with others, listening to theirs, and realizing the transformative power of empathy and solidarity. If I can stand here and speak, she tells a small group of women, then you can too. We all deserve safety, respect, and the freedom to live without fear. Her voice, once timid and trembling, now carries strength and conviction, inspiring those who hear it. Days turn into weeks. Jenny begins taking classes at a nearby community college, something she had always dreamed of but never pursued. The first day she steps into a classroom, she feels a flutter of nervousness, but this time, it's different. It is not fear of control, manipulation, or judgment. It is the thrill of new beginnings, the excitement of independence. She takes notes, engages in discussions, and slowly begins to imagine a future filled with possibilities, rather than restrictions. Despite these new positive steps, Jenny faces challenges. Court dates loom, legal paperwork piles up, and occasionally, memories of past abuse resurface unexpectedly, like phantom echoes. Some nights, she lies awake, heart racing, shadows of fear creeping back in. But these moments no longer define her. She has learned to breathe through the panic, to remind herself of her resilience, and to lean on her support network when needed. Each challenge she faces is a reaffirmation of her strength, not a reminder of weakness. One afternoon, Jenny takes a long walk through the city park. The air is crisp, and the sun is warm on her skin. She observes families playing, friends chatting, couples holding hands, and she allows herself a small smile. It is a smile free of anxiety or guilt, one that reflects her emerging joy. She pauses by a bench, watching the leaves flutter in the breeze, and whispers to herself, "This life, It's mine to live. And I choose to live it fully, freely, bravely. Jenny also begins to document her journey through social media and a personal blog. She writes candidly about her experiences, the fear, the fight, the small victories, and the ongoing journey of healing. Comments and messages begin to pour in from people who resonate with her story, people who feel seen and inspired by her courage. Jenny realizes that her pain, once a source of shame, has transformed into a beacon of hope for others. Slowly, Jenny ventures into new relationships, friendships, and professional connections, always guided by her newfound boundaries and self-respect. She recognizes red flags quickly and no longer tolerates manipulation or abuse in any form. Each interaction, each connection, strengthens her confidence further. She is no longer the same woman who once cowered in fear. She is deliberate, aware, and empowered. By the end of part 3, Jenny stands on the balcony of her apartment, looking out at the city lights shimmering in the night. The memories of her past linger, but they no longer control her. She breathes deeply, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs, and acknowledges the journey she has walked, the fear she has faced, the battles she has fought, the courage she has discovered, and the freedom she has claimed. She whispers into the night, "I am stronger than I ever knew. I am free. And this is just the beginning of the life I will create for myself." The camera pulls back slowly, capturing Jenny's silhouette against the glowing cityscape. Her posture exudes strength, her gaze reflects determination, and the quiet confidence she now embodies fills the frame. The journey ahead is still long, but Jenny knows without a shadow of doubt that she will navigate it on her own terms, empowered by the courage she found within herself. Months have passed since Jenny first found the courage to call the police. The world outside her apartment feels brighter, not because the sunlight is different, but because she has changed. The shadows that once haunted her mind, the fear that once gripped her chest, have been replaced with a quiet but unshakable strength. Jenny wakes up each morning with a sense of purpose, a deep awareness that her life belongs solely to her now. The legal proceedings are finally approaching their conclusion. Jenny sits in the courtroom one morning, her heart steady, her hands resting calmly in her lap. She listens as lawyers speak. Evidence is presented, and the truth of what she endured unfolds. This is more than just a legal battle. It is a declaration that she will no longer be silenced, that her pain is valid, and that justice matters. When the final ruling is announced, confirming her protection and holding Sumit accountable for his actions, a wave of relief and empowerment washes over her. She breathes deeply, letting the moment sink in. For the first time in years, she feels a profound sense of safety. Jenny returns home that afternoon and steps onto her balcony, overlooking the city she once navigated with caution and fear. The wind carries a sense of possibility, a promise of new beginnings. She allows herself to reflect, not on the abuse, not on the pain, but on the journey that brought her here. Every tear, every moment of fear, every trembling step towards seeking help has led to this point. She realizes she is no longer a victim. She is a survivor, a warrior, a woman who reclaimed her life with courage, patience, and unwavering determination. Over the following weeks, Jenny dives fully into her new life. She enrolls in more advanced classes at the community college, focusing on subjects that excite and challenge her. Each day is filled with learning, growth, and the thrill of discovering her own potential. She joins clubs, meets new people, and forms friendships rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Each connection reinforces the realization that her worth is defined not by fear or abuse, but by her choices, her actions, and her character. Jenny also continues her advocacy work, speaking at support centers, schools, and local organizations about domestic abuse and the power of finding one's voice. She shares her story candidly, inspiring others who may feel trapped to seek help, to believe in themselves, and to know that freedom is possible. Her words resonate with many, and she receives messages from women and men alike who feel seen, understood, and motivated by her courage. Each message is a reminder that her suffering was not in vain. Her story now carries purpose beyond herself. At home, Jenny spends quiet evenings reflecting, journaling, and planning her future. She decorates her apartment in ways that bring her peace. Bright colors, plants that flourish under her care, and small reminders of resilience placed thoughtfully around her space. Each detail reflects a life reclaimed, a space transformed from a place of fear into a sanctuary of hope, strength, and freedom. Jenny also begins exploring new relationships, friendships, professional networks, and eventually the possibility of romantic connection. But everything is approached with awareness and self-respect. She recognizes red flags instantly and has the strength to walk away from any situation that threatens her peace. She understands now that boundaries are not just rules, but shields, tools of empowerment that protect the life she has fought so hard to rebuild. One evening, Jenny stands on her balcony again, the city lights sparkling below. She reflects on the entire journey, from the fear that once paralyzed her, to the courage that compelled her to speak, to the empowerment she now embodies. She breathes in the night air, allowing it to fill her lungs, her spirit, her very being. "I am free," she whispers. "I am strong. I am me." Her gaze drifts to the horizon, where the sky meets the city. For the first time, she feels the infinite possibilities of a life lived on her own terms. She no longer fears the shadows of the past, for they have become lessons, reminders of her resilience, and proof of her inner strength. Jenny realizes that true freedom is not simply the absence of danger, but the presence of courage, self-love, and unwavering determination to create the life one deserves. The camera slowly pulls back, capturing Jenny's silhouette framed against the night sky. Her posture is firm, her expression serene yet determined. The apartment, once a place of confinement and fear, now radiates warmth, peace, and the unmistakable aura of empowerment. The quiet strength in Jenny's gaze tells a story of transformation, resilience, and triumph over adversity. Jenny steps back inside, closing the door softly behind her. The past is behind her, the present is hers to shape, and the future stretches out like an open road filled with endless possibilities. She picks up her journal one last time for the evening and writes, "I survived, I healed, I reclaimed my life. Nothing can take this away from me. This is my story, my freedom, my future." She sets the journal down, smiles, and walks toward her bedroom. As she prepares to sleep, a sense of peace washes over her, peace earned through courage, perseverance, and the unyielding belief in her own strength. The camera lingers on the softly lit room, capturing the tranquility and empowerment that now define Jenny's life. Jenny turns off the lights and lies down, finally able to breathe fully, freely, and without fear. The journey was long, painful, and exhausting, but she emerged stronger, wiser, and completely in control of her destiny. For Jenny, this is not the end. It is the true beginning of a life reclaimed, a life defined by freedom, courage, and hope. Jenny stands by her apartment window, the city lights twinkling below like 1,000 tiny promises of hope. She takes a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill her lungs, and for the first time in years, she smiles without fear. The fear, the pain, the sleepless nights, they are all behind her now. Every step she took, every tear she shed, every moment she found the courage to speak out has led her to this very moment. Her apartment, once a place filled with tension and anxiety, now feels warm, safe, and entirely her own. She runs her fingers along the shelves, decorated with plants, photographs, and small reminders of her journey. Each item tells a story of resilience, of courage, of freedom. Jenny realizes that she is no longer defined by the past. She is defined by the choices she makes today and the life she is building for tomorrow. She picks up her journal and writes a few final lines. "I am free. I am whole. I am stronger than I ever imagined. My story is mine and I will live it fully." She closes the journal gently and places it on her bedside table. The weight that once pressed on her chest has lifted, replaced by an unshakable confidence and peace. Jenny walks to her balcony, looking up at the stars. She reflects on the journey, the fear, the struggle, the courage it took to reclaim her life. Every obstacle she faced, every moment she doubted herself, has transformed into strength, clarity, and wisdom. She feels gratitude for the support she received, for the lessons learned, and for the inner voice that never allowed her to surrender completely. In this final moment, Jenny understands something profound. Freedom is not just the absence of fear. It is the presence of courage, self-respect, and the ability to create a life on your own terms. She smiles softly, knowing that she has crossed a threshold. The woman who cowered in fear no longer exists. What remains is someone resilient, empowered, and fully alive. As Jenny steps back into her apartment, she turns off the lights, letting the soft glow from the city lights illuminate the room. She lies down, finally feeling peace in her mind, in her body, and in her soul. The journey was long, painful, and transformative, but she has emerged whole. Jenny closes her eyes, ready to embrace the life she has fought so hard to claim, a life filled with possibility, hope, and freedom. The camera pans slowly out of the apartment window,